All right, we're going to go ahead and get started for real. Hello, welcome. Good afternoon. My name is Grace Sullivan Zirkle. I serve as Associate Dean of Students and Director of New Student and Family Programs, which means it's my privilege and role to help onboard all of you and help make sure that your transition to Duke is as seamless as possible. We do that through a lot of means. Many of them revolve around communications and partnering really closely with other folks around campus to make sure you have the information you need. And I'm excited that today, for our second summer transition series, we will be touching on Pratt Advising. And in a few minutes, we'll make sure that you are introduced to our Pratt undergraduate education team, who are all here to answer your questions and provide a little bit more about the experience. Before we do that, though, I want to just go over a few housekeeping items. All of these will be the same on every summer transition series webinar this summer, but good to go over the basics. If you have questions throughout the presentation, you can put them in the bottom. You'll see a Q&A. So that's the best place to put your Q&A. Some responses might be typed back to you, and others may be answered at the end of the session when we'll have an opportunity for live Q&A. So you might hear a verbal answer from some of our experts here on the call. We have disabled the chat just to make it easier for us to see all of your questions in one place. So again, make sure you put things in the Q&A. And then this webinar is being recorded. We like to record all of our webinars so that if you hear that gem of wisdom and you need to remember what it is, you can go back later and review it. And then also, some of you are probably listening to this in the future because you are in fact watching the recording and couldn't make the webinar live. So if you give us about 48 hours, we'll have this posted on our website, and it will be in the same location that you went to register for this webinar and any future webinars. That's housekeeping. So with that, I am really excited to hand things over to our amazing colleagues in the Pratt School of Engineering, and I'm going to let the undergraduate education team over there introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Tarina Argis, and I work with the Pratt Undergraduate Education Team as Director of Student Affairs. Next, I'll turn it over to the first of our three Pratt Academic Deans.
Ben Cook. I'm one of the three academic deans.
Hi, I'm Lupita McMillan, another academic dean.
Hi, I'm Carmen Rolls. I'm the third academic dean. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Pratt Advising webinar. We are very excited to connect with you. I hope everyone is doing well and is enjoying their summer. Today, we're here to provide you with information that will help you navigate the registration process. After our brief presentation, we will answer all your questions. We understand that some students may have very specific situations, and those situations may be answered best in an email or during a Zoom meeting. For that reason, the three academic deans will be meeting with their first-year advisees via Zoom this summer. During the meeting, we will discuss your course selections for the fall. So please check your Duke email for information on how to schedule a meeting with your dean. So before we begin, we want to introduce you to the undergraduate advising team. So there we go. The whole team is there. From left to right, we have the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Education, Professor Lisa Huchel, the three academic deans ourselves, and the directors of undergraduate studies of the engineering departments. Our role is to assist you with academic planning and to ensure you satisfy the graduation requirements of your chosen major. At Duke, there is a network of support available to our students. It starts with the academic dean, who will oversee the progress during their time at Duke. The academic dean is the point person to reach out to when you're in need of assistance. After the fall semester begins, students are also assigned a faculty advisor, who in the first year we refer to as a 360 coach because, in addition to being knowledgeable in general education requirements, they're familiar with offices at Duke that offer extended support. The Wellness Center, Career Center, the Academic Resource Center, among many others. You will meet with your faculty advisor starting in the fall to discuss course selections for the following term. In addition, students are assigned an 18 peer advisor. These are upperclassmen in engineering who will provide you with advice and guidance from peer perspective. Finally, students receive guidance in choosing their major through the directors of undergraduate studies. Okay, so who is your academic dean? The name of your academic dean will appear on your Duke Hub, but you can find the breakdown here. Dean Cook is the academic dean for engineering students whose last name begins with A and goes through HA. Dean Rolls has engineering students whose last name begins with HE and goes through PA. And Dean Macmillan has engineering students whose last name begins with PE and goes through the end of the alphabet. This is your academic dean for your next 4 years. Now let's turn to why you really tuned in tonight to find out about registration and what you will register for in the fall. Shopping carts open on June 1st. There are a few tasks you must complete before you can start shopping for your classes. First, be sure that you verify and update your personal information on Duke Hub and that you complete your first year questions. Once you have completed those 2 steps, then you can start selecting courses to add to your shopping cart. Second, review the Blue Book and be sure to read the Pratt Learning and Pratt Registration sections carefully. These 2 sections are Pratt specific and hold very different information than the Trinity sections of the same name. In the Blue Book, you will find step-by-step instructions on how to select courses and put them into your shopping cart. Learn to validate your schedule and eventually register. There are screenshots and step-by-step instructions for all of this to guide you. It's important to note that at first, you're only selecting possible courses and sections for your shopping cart to build your schedule. You will not actually register for these classes until your registration window opens on July 29th. Now Dean Cook will tell you about the schedule this fall.
Okay, so full-time status at Duke is 4 credits. And courses at Duke can be worth a quarter credit, a half credit, 1 credit, some cases 2 credits, but you're going to register for 4 1-credit classes. All students are limited to a maximum of 4.5 credits in their first semester at Duke. And this may be a little bit different from what you just came from, and you may think, oh, I can handle more than 4 courses. But at Duke, 4 1-credit courses are going to be a full load. The engineering curriculum is common in the first year, regardless of major. But your placement may be different if you're coming in with AP, IPC, or pre-matriculation credits. But all engineering majors require the same general education courses. Next slide. Okay, this specific slide refers to almost all students, but not those that are in Focus or Constellation. All engineers should take Engineering 101 in the fall semester, and all engineers should take math in the fall. If you start with no AP or IPC or pre-matriculation credit, like most students, you'll register for Math 111. But if you have credit for Math 21, you can register for Math 122. If you have credit for both Math 21 and 22, you can register for Math 218 D-2, which is a linear algebra course. But in order to register for that course, 218 D-2, you'll need to have the credit for your AP courses in Duke Hub. So those scores need to be sent to the registrar. If you don't have AP credit for computer science, then you should register for Engineering 105. But if you do have AP credit for computer science or have extensive experience in Java, then you can register for ComSci 201. Both EGR 105 and ComSci 201 satisfy the engineering computing requirement. Your 4th course should be Chemistry 101. If you have AP Chemistry credit, then you could take Chem 110 or Chem 201, or not take chemistry, depending on your major. Some options for that slot, depending on your interests, might include Biology 201, which has about 50 open seats and could be a good option for BME students. If you choose a lab with a lot of open seats, that'll increase the chances that you'll get into the class. Engineering 121L, which is being offered this fall, that could be an option for ME students. an arts and sciences course. Are you interested in a certificate or minor or second major? Then you could choose an arts and science course in that area. Chem 201, if you're pre-health. And making a lot of schedules in Schedule Builder, which is a tool in Duke Hub, will be helpful. And then also kind of meeting with your dean to talk through kind of these options for your specific situation is also helpful. Okay, so this is focusing, or this is about students who are in focus. Students who are in focus, you'll already be registered for 2.5 focus courses in the fall. And the global energy focus cluster includes Engineering 101. It's called Engineering 95 FS, but it has the same title as Engineering 101. And it counts as Engineering 101. If you're in a different focus cluster, then AP credit for chemistry and or math will help keep you on track with engineering prerequisites. And it's not impossible to take focus without AP credit, but if you don't have credits coming in, then you should talk to your academic dean about how you'll adjust your schedule to fit in focus. Focus students will also take 2 non-focus courses in the fall, and you should choose Engineering 101 and then either math or chemistry, depending on maybe your credit or your major. And this is another good discussion to have with your dean. All focus students, including those not in Pratt, will take Writing 120 in the spring. Excellent. Another option for Pratt students is constellations. And students who are in a constellation will either register for one constellation course in the fall or the combination of Writing 120 and a constellation course in the fall. Writing 120 is a required course for all Duke students in Trinity and Pratt. And depending on which option you're in, your other courses in the fall would be Engineering 101, and then Math or Chemistry, and or Engineering 105 or Comp Sci 201. In the spring, you would take Math or Chemistry, Physics 151, DL, and or Engineering 105, Comp Sci 201, along with Writing 120, if you're in one of the options. This is the first semester that Pratt students have been able to participate in constellations, which were introduced last fall. And if you do a constellation, you might need to take 5 classes in the spring to fit in the typical first-year course for your major, or you could take that course in your second year. Similarly with constellations, it's not impossible to participate in constellation without AP credit. But if you don't have credits, it's good to kind of talk to your dean about how you can fit it in. Okay, next slide. All right, so for labs, lab courses are a little bit confusing in Duke Hub because there are multiple types. Some labs, like Engineering 101, Math 111L, the lab is part of the course. So when you register for the course, you're also registering for the labs. And Duke Hub will force you to register for both at once. But some labs are not connected to the class. So for chemistry or physics or upper level engineering courses in ECE, BME, maybe ME, they have separate lab sections that are also required, but you register for 2 things at the same time, or even 3 things in the case of physics. And these are designated with an L9. So for Chemistry 101, for example, there's Chemistry 101 discussion, there's Chemistry 101 lecture, and then there's also a lab, which is Chemistry 101 L9. And you have to register for all 3 components to be fully registered for the class. This is important to note because if you accidentally don't register for one of these things, then later when the chemistry department contacts you and says, hey, you need to register for this thing, you may have to change around your whole schedule, which may kind of get you out of the seat that you were really interested in, we wanted in a different class. So making sure to double check that you have the lab and you're registered for everything is a helpful step. And yes, that's all I have.
Thank you. So I'm here to talk about how to use your AP credits or your IB credits or your IPC credits. Because with the appropriate score, you can satisfy engineering requirements, and that will allow you to place into upper level courses. Credit isn't necessary to complete your engineering degree, But it's important to know that each engineering department treats this credit differently if you do have the credit. Each department handbook can confirm which credits your potential major will accept, and your academic dean can also inform you on this as well. So courses build upon each other in engineering. For example, Calculus 1 is a prerequisite for Calculus 2. Physics E&M is a prerequisite for other courses in the major. So if you use your AP credit and take a course that you don't feel confident in, then you might not gain the foundation in the course material, and your learning and subsequent courses would be impacted. If you are unsure, we can point you towards self-assessments and departmental online resources to help you make the best choice for you. Also, both math and chemistry departments have very informative placement websites that you can also consult. You can also talk to your academic dean about any specific questions that you have. So making schedule changes. Drop ad begins on July 30th. So your registration is July 29th, and then beginning on July 30th is when the drop ad period begins. This is the time when, if you need to make changes to your schedule, you can do so during that drop ad period. And drop ad remains open through the second week of classes in the fall. There might be many reasons you want to make a change, but we recommend changing your schedule only in these circumstances. One is if you need to correct your math or chemistry placement. And the other reason would be if you are on a wait list and changing a course or a lab section or a lab that would work better. If there's, I'm sorry, let me start that sentence over again. So if you're on a wait list and you need to change a course or a lab because it's full, but there are open sections that just opened up, then we would recommend that you move to that open section so that you can get a confirmed seat in a class and not hang out on a wait list. Again, your academic dean, we're here to help you in your summer advising meeting, and then we're available all summer for questions via email as well. We will have advising support throughout the summer, as I mentioned. Everyone should have received an email by now. Check your Duke email from your academic dean. We sent you information on how to sign up for a meeting with us over the summer. And registration is one of your first experiences with Duke, and it can be a challenge sometimes to navigate. So definitely do not feel that you can't ask questions. That's what we're here for all summer long. You can email us directly, or you can email pratt-advising@duke.edu. We have that advising email in the Blue Book. And also, if your academic dean is on vacation this summer, which we will all be gone for a certain point of time in the summer, we will refer students to that Pratt Advising email where it will be monitored and answered. So you can always send messages there as well. We will respond to emails within 24 to 48 hours. We receive many, many emails over the summer. So if you don't receive a response from us within 2 business days, please feel free to bump that email up in our inbox. And this summer, there's also going to be departmental representatives, our directors of undergraduate studies, holding special Zoom drop-in sessions for students to drop in informally and ask any questions about a specific major. Details about those sessions will be sent to your Duke email later this summer. So there's also going to be peer summer advising support. Our engineering student government and our Society for Women Engineers will hold peer advising Zoom hours in June. You can register on their website that's linked above. Our upper class engineers are an important resource for answering questions about student life, about co and extracurricular opportunities, about living on campus, using Schedule Builder, and navigating Duke Hub. Because every student background and experience is different, please reserve your questions about placement and curriculum requirements for your academic dean. Something else to look for once the fall registration begins, our engineering student government will begin recruiting the class of 2030 representatives for ESG. So another reason to check your Duke email regularly. If you want to be involved in our engineering student government, they will be sending out emails for how to get involved. Finally, for students, we're not trying to get you to transfer, but we understand and realize that some students' interests have changed and they've already decided on some other passions. That is okay. And if you want to know that, or if you know that already now, then you can contact the undergraduate admissions office and make a request to transfer to Trinity this summer before you register for classes on July 29th. Make that request before July 1st, and if your request is approved, then you won't be required to take prep courses, and you can move into the Trinity curriculum right away. If your request is not granted, then you will still be eligible to transfer after your fall semester this December. And similarly, if there happen to be any current Trinity students on this webinar, if your desire is to transfer to Pratt, the same instructions apply to you. Notify your undergraduate admissions representative for this request. And then finally, this concludes our slides. So make sure to follow us on Instagram at Pratt Deans. And now we're going to open this up to any questions that you might have. And I'll also ask that any questions about your specific situation be saved for your summer advising meeting with your academic dean. I'll turn it over to Grace Zirkle to help us moderate the Q&A.
Wonderful. Thank you, Lupita and all. All right, this is the time. If you haven't asked your question, if you could put it in the chat, that would be great, and that will help us facilitate the rest of our discussion today. Okay, we've got a few about AP. So how many AP credits does Pratt accept?
We don't have an upper limit on AP credits, but you can't count like a math AP credit for a chemistry class. So within math, you can count up to 2 math, potentially 1 chemistry, potentially 1 physics. All Pratt students need to take at least 1 physics course post matriculation, and then for free electives, they can count, and then possibly maybe for a natural science course in certain majors. But we don't have a strict upper limit. And they can't count for some things. They can't count for the arts and sciences requirement. They can't count for like engineering classes within the major because there aren't no APs for those things.
Great, thank you. On the note of placement, what is the most advanced math placement test that can be taken in freshman year?
We don't have placement tests other than the AP. So the BC Calc AP test, I guess, would qualify as the most advanced. If you have like kind of math competition experience in high school, or you want to talk to the math department about like taking really advanced classes, that is possible, but we kind of defer students to the math department. But typically students, the most advanced place students would start is in 218D-2, which is a linear algebra course.
Great. There's a few questions that ask about taking coursework and maybe even pursuing majors in both Pratt and Trinity. So I wondered if someone could talk a little bit about how you would take one major in both, and when can students start taking classes that are more in Trinity, whether or not they're pursuing a major in Trinity.
So it is possible for Pratt students to pursue second major, a minor, a certificate in Trinity. It's not required, but certainly if you have passions in other areas and want to pursue something extra in a Trinity area, that's possible. Pratt students can pursue anything in Trinity added on to their first engineering major. Trinity students cannot have Pratt as a second major, but there are minors and certificates that are open to Trinity students. If there are Trinity students who are interested in an engineering major as a second major, like say, for instance, computer science, they want to have a second major in engineering, they would have to transfer to Pratt, have engineering as their first major, and then they could still have their second major in computer science. So that is possible. Usually the first year is very prescribed. So there's 8 classes everyone takes, and it really differs by one class, maybe 2 classes. So typically in the sophomore year, a student's schedules open up a little bit that they could potentially take 1 or 2 classes outside of their engineering curriculum.
Also on the same topic, are there circumstances in which students would be denied transferring from Trinity to Pratt?
I mean, at Duke is fairly easy to transfer from one school to the other. There are certain depending on the stage. Right now, admissions would be the one who will be evaluating the transfer requests. But any student that is unable to transfer before the start of the fall semester, we would still provide them with advice and help them transition to Pratt and the subsequent semester. But yes, I mean, that would be an admissions deadline.
Well, we also once you've come to Duke and you're in Trinity or Pratt, or if you're in Trinity, one of our requirements is that you take an engineering class. So we want you to take engineering 101, 105. We accept Comp 201 to make sure that you don't like transfer in, take an engineering course, and then want to transfer back out. So we want you to like take a course in engineering before you decide.
Can you talk a little bit more about how students find majors within Pratt, and can they switch if, for example, in their application they said they were interested in BME, can they switch to another engineering degree?
They can. So everyone comes in undeclared. Even if you, in your first year questions, if you answered you want BME first and ECE second, you still have the opportunity to choose mechanical as your first major. So the first year engineering curriculum is very prescribed and common among all of our majors. For the reason to allow students to get here, get comfortable, begin learning about different majors if they need more information, and then our students declare after their first year is over. Even if you declare something after that first year and then you decide, I really want to do another major, the process is very simple. You can change between majors, and depending on which majors you leave and go to, it might be a little easier to just pick up those new major requirements. And that's what academic deans are here for. We help you make academic plans, especially if you are thinking of switching. We will help you look at your new plan to see what it looks like. Sometimes a student might miss out on some foundational prerequisite courses if they weren't in that major at one time and now they want to switch to it. So your academic dean will help you come up with a plan on how you can make up any courses that were, necessary for that point in time in that major. But it's very simple. It just might impact your trajectory. It might impact that you have to take 5 classes instead of 4, or maybe you have to take summer school. It can be done, and we'll show you the path that it can be done. And then in the end, you can make that decision if you want to pursue all of the changes that might be necessary.
Wonderful. When it comes to registration, how quickly you fill out your shopping cart determine priority when assigning courses or actually registering for courses later on?
So it doesn't give you priority, but it gives you a very good head start to be prepared. Then ideally you'll have your schedule that you will prefer on that shopping cart before your registration window opens. So you can log in, validate, verify, and submit, and then you can register for the classes. During the registration window, just keep in mind that all of your peers will be enrolling at the same time. So one of the sections maybe not available at that time, but don't worry, there is ample space. You just have to make some adjustments and maybe make some changes, but preparing the shopping cart in advance would be to your benefit.
One student is asking, what's the deadline to make an appointment with the dean? Can you all recap again the timeline in which they need to be connecting with you all this summer?
Well, they should connect with us before July 29th, ideally a few weeks before that to give them time to work through their shopping cart. Although you all can play in it right now, even before you meet with us. But it's best to do it within the months of June and early July to sign up for that appointment.
Yes, we all sent out emails to our advisees with the links on how to schedule a meeting. So search your Duke email address and find the links, and you can just schedule in advance the appointment so that we have ample time to discuss the course selections.
Yes, and some of our platforms we've been using have been a little wonky. So feel free to email your dean directly if you are getting any type of error messages or if the scheduling link isn't working. Go back to the alphabet slide and or look at the email address that we sent you and just reply to that email and let us know that something is not working for you, and we'll do what we can to get you into the appointment.
Great. All right, there's multiple questions about constellations in focus. So let's start with this. What would a common fall spring schedule for Pratt students in a focus cluster look like? And how does that connect with, are those constellation focus classes beyond the required 4 from Pratt?
Yeah,
I'm going to share that screen again just to help.
Yeah, so if you're in the focus that includes Engineering 101, then the other two classes would probably be math and chemistry. But if you're in the focus that doesn't include Engineering 101, then it'd be Engineering 101 and then either math or chemistry. Those courses typically count towards the liberal arts requirement, the focus classes, if they're not in the engineering cluster. But that's a good kind of conversation to have with your dean or kind of talk through how that's going to affect your fall courses and your spring courses. You're required to take 5 courses. All Pratt students are required to take 5 courses towards the liberal arts requirement. So those courses can count towards those requirements, but they may shift other courses back to fit those in.
Great. There's another question that you may be able to answer half of it, but students are wondering, is it too late to apply for constellations or focus? And I wonder if you could answer that particularly from what conversations do they need to have with you if they're interested in focus or Pratt, acknowledging that registration is passed, but that sort of developmental piece of what do they need to connect with you all about?
So probably we will discuss what their fall schedule will look like as a focus student and how that will impact their entire curriculum moving forward. We can help them interpret any AP or IB or IPC credits that they might have and how that will help them in the focus program to stay on track with the engineering curriculum. And as Dean Cook mentioned earlier, you don't need AP, IB, or IPC credit to participate. However, that will impact your engineering curriculum. And so we will walk you through what that impact will look like and how you can make up the credits that you won't be taking if you're taking focus. And then I think I cut you off, Dean Rolls. Was there something you wanted to add to that?
Well, that's fine.
I was just going to say, I think the answer from Trinity would be space pending. So if you're still really interested, connect with your dean, and then you could email focus@duke.edu or constellations@duke.edu. But the answer is very much going to be dependent on what space there is still in those programs.
I guess if you transfer into Trinity, so if you're like wanting to transfer into Trinity, and then that will require you to participate in either focus or constellation. So you would kind of be required to participate in one or the other. But as a Pratt student, those are optional. And so, yeah, so you would not be required.
That's a great point. The last one on focus and constellation for now is a little bit of the value proposition. Someone's asking, what's the value if I'm in Pratt of doing focus or constellations? I wonder if any of you want to comment on that.
So I think students that are really excited about their focus cluster, I mean, when you have AP credit, you can kind of use it to either get farther ahead in engineering courses and math and science courses, or you can use it to pursue some other interest that you have, right? And so I think if you're kind of a student who wants to pursue something and sees a focus cluster they're really interested in, and is really excited about it, then I think I've had students that really enjoy their focus experience. And I've also had students who are trying to decide between different types of engineering, right? They're not sure if they want to do ECE or ME or maybe BME. And so kind of using that space in their schedule to help them decide on the type of engineering they want to do is more valuable for them than participating in a focus cluster. So I think if you're, pretty confident that you want to go in a particular area of engineering and you're excited about a focus cluster, then it can be a really great experience. If you would rather kind of get deeper into engineering right away, then participating in focus may kind of prevent you from doing that. So it's kind of you have to weigh the for you kind of what you want.
Another question that I think echoes off that, Ben, feeds well is if students are unsure about transferring, they're in Pratt now, unsure if they want to transfer to Trinity, is there a recommendation on should they transfer now? Like, which way is better if they're unsure, which might relate to first year requirements as well?
I would say if you're unsure, you have to start taking classes. So I would still encourage if you're still interested in engineering, I would remain in an engineering schedule. And if you're through a conversation with your dean, if your schedule allows and you can also take a Trinity class, then that might be a way for you to learn about both topics. But if you're interested in engineering, it would be beneficial to take EGR 101, our first year design experience, in which you'll learn about the engineering design process, the collaborative environment of engineering, being faced with a design challenge and building a prototype with your team to solve a problem. So if that's interesting in engineering, I would definitely encourage that experience and definitely build your STEM foundations with math and science.
I mean, we have students who take engineering 101 and don't like it, and like they don't regret not doing engineering because they tried it, right? So they've tried the engineering experience, they've taken 101, they've done a project, and they've been like, this isn't for me. I'm gonna go do something else. And so I think that's a better, like you won't have regrets that you didn't try something. If you apply to Duke in engineering, then you probably have thought about it for a while. And if you've changed your mind, you may be really sure what you want to do, and then changing to training might be the right move. Or you may still be on the fence, and having like that one kind of experience to make sure that you don't love engineering. Because we have a handful of students who go back, so switch to Trinity, then come back to Pratt, or switch to Pratt, come back to Trinity. So that's not ideal either. So we want you to find the thing you really like.
Last one on this topic for now. If a student is not transferring right now, but thinks they're in Trinity and maybe transferring to Pratt after the first semester, are there courses they should take, thinking about making that transition easier?
I recommend definitely the math, making sure that you are on target with the engineering math requirement. That tends to be a prerequisite to a lot of classes in the engineering major taken in the sophomore year. So staying current with math. We don't know right now if there will be spaces in EGR 101 or EGR 105, but if you have room in your schedule, that could be a good class to take to try us out, to test out what you think engineering would be like. And that could be a good opportunity. We will have a link to a quali form available. You can email pratt-advising@duke.edu, and it's our own internal wait list. So that is a possibility for Trinity students. We do recommend, though, for Trinity students to register for all 4 courses, because you have to register for 4 courses during your registration window. And then it's usually after registration where Pratt will know if there are spaces available in those classes that I mentioned. And if they are, then we notify the students on our list, and they would drop one of their 4 courses so that they could add the one engineering course.
This question feeds nicely off that, I think. What are the chances? What's advice for class registration? What are the chances that one of the standard classes you have to take as a first year fills up before registration? And what do students do if that happens?
It's a very good chance that will happen. But we work with all of our students to make sure they are taking the required engineering courses. So while maybe the math section you really wanted to take fills up, there are other math sections to take. So we will direct you to the open spots of the math section. If there are conflicts with some of the required courses that you need to take, then your academic dean, we will work with you to make sure that you get the classes that you need. For some things, like with the math department, we work behind the scenes with them to make sure that all of our students have a seat in the math class that they need to take. Might not be your ideal time that you'd like to take it, but we will get you a seat in math class that works. That's just one example. EGR 101, that's a required engineering course. Sometimes those sections fill up. We have wait lists for these courses, and we want you to get on the wait list so that our instructors know what the demand is and what they need to do to accommodate everyone that's on the wait list. So if the class is full and there aren't any options, get on the wait list. If the class is full and there are other times that fit in your schedule, you just don't desire those times, you need to take those times. Registration will get easier each semester that you're here, but it might be, it's kind of a rite of passage for some students in the first and second semester. You might be taking classes at a time that you just wished you didn't have to. So they might be those 8:30 time sections. It might be the 6 p.m. lab section. It might be all smack dab during lunch hours. We'll get you a schedule that works, and we'll try to work with desired times, but that's not always possible.
On the subject of specific courses, a student is asking about the course codes DL and L. Can you explain the difference? Is one better than the other? How do you differentiate?
Okay. So I imagine DL are the classes that have discussion and lecture and lab, and then the ones that are L only have lecture and labs. So it would depend on the class. For example, our students take chemistry. Chemistry is one that has the discussion, the lecture, and lab, and students have to enroll in all 3 components in order to take the class. But then there are other classes that only have the labs, like EGR 101. So it has the lecture and also has the lab section so that you can work on the project as a team. So it's not one better than the other. It's just the components that are required for the class.
Do you know if it's possible to test out of 218D2 with a college credit in linear algebra? It looks like a student is looking online at the math department and it only gives information on placement for calculus courses. And how might a student with a similar question figure this answer out this summer?
Well, I would say if a student has taken a class at a college institution and is not counting towards their high school degree, they can request pre-matriculation credit. So they can go to the registrar's office and request pre-matriculation credit. And that would be a way in which they would receive credit for the class and they wouldn't have to take it at Duke. But we don't have a specific test that they would take otherwise. They can discuss the matter specifically with the math department and their dean. So I would say that's a very good point of discussion during one of our meetings this summer.
And there are forms on the registrar's website. If you just go to registrar.duke.edu, in the search box, you can type in pre-matriculation credit and the process with the forms to request that your credit get reviewed for possible Duke credit.
There's a few questions I'm going to try to loop together again that's about students, particularly maybe those who have a lot of APs. What does that first year look like if you're outside of the requirement, if you're testing out of the required courses? And let's say someone said, I have a lot of APs. If I'm not in Focus or Constellation, does that make me somehow below the others in priority of courses in sort of figuring out those other exploratory courses in engineering?
So the first year is common. So everyone's taking math. So if you have those advanced credits in math, you're just going to start in a different math course. So everyone's taking math. Everyone's taking EGR 101, and then everyone's taking their programming course, which is either Engineering 105 or Comp Sci 101. So usually it's that chemistry class. So depending on your desired major, for instance, all of our majors except BME will take a 4 on the chemistry AP credit, AP exam. So for students with a 4 on the AP exam, their chemistry is satisfied. They don't have any other chemistry to take. So they have one spot available to take a different class. For our BME majors, that department only accepts a 5 on the AP exam. So if they have a 5, then they can go move forward with their second semester of chemistry. So there's not a lot of variation among situations for students who have a lot of AP credits, just a few AP credits, or no AP credits. You can definitely discuss this with your academic dean. If you're in that chemistry situation where maybe you haven't satisfied, there are some alternatives. We can suggest other STEM courses. Or perhaps in one of our slides, we said, I think Dean Cook went over that liberal arts classes are also a possibility for students who might be advanced in their AP credits. But usually that's only a matter of maybe one class in the fall semester. So it's not going to impact a large number of students.
There's a few students that asked, I have a lot of questions. Can I schedule multiple appointments with the dean? And I think my follow-up question would be, what does a student need to do? How can they best prepare for that meeting to make the most out of their time with you all and your precious time this summer?
I think it'll be very beneficial if they have their AP scores, for example, if that's part of the conversation and if it's going to impact their course selections for the fall. Also, we want to learn what do they like, which major they prefer at this point in time. Looking at the Blue Book will be beneficial to prepare them for the registration process. There's a lot of information about the first year courses and different things that will be very, very useful. But I think those are the main courses. Just looking at our first year schedule, Blue Book, and AP scores. I think those would be good things to bring to the meeting and write down any questions you have. I'm sure we'll have enough time during the meeting to discuss all your questions, but if more come up, we're happy to reply to emails also, or if additional discussions are needed, we're available, but I'm sure we'll have enough time to discuss.
To our students watching live, we are nearing the end of the questions that have been submitted. So if you've been sitting here with a burning question that you hope someone else will ask, this is your moment to put it in the chat. All right, another nuts and bolts about registration. Is it first come, first serve, really? Is the earlier I log in, the earlier, more likely I am to get my classes?
It is first come, first serve on registration day when the window opens, 12 noon Eastern time, which is local Durham time. As Dean Rawls mentioned earlier, making sure that your shopping cart is set up, that you validated. Even having, you can put as many classes and as many sections in your shopping cart. So having all of those in your shopping cart at registration time. So if you do get an error message that what the section you wanted has filled up, you can grab another section from your shopping cart faster than you'd have to leave the registration window, go find the class, put it in your shopping cart, and then go back to the registration window. So have tons of sections that could work in your schedule in the shopping cart. But otherwise, noon Eastern time on that July 29th, everyone who pushes the button at the same time, the computer will read your responses in the order that your button was pressed. And it's pretty quick. It's very, very quick.
Can you remind us when shopping carts open? When can students start putting ideas into their shopping cart?
Monday, June 1st, shopping carts will open. And that's when you can begin answering your first year questions.
Great. This question is, when is the last time we can decide on majors and minors? I know we said that students are undeclared in their first year, but maybe how late into their career, if they decide they want to add another major or another minor, how late can that happen in their time at Duke?
I don't
Sophomore
know if there's a,
spring. Sorry,
yeah.
go ahead.
No, yeah. So, well, I was gonna say, the sooner you know, the better, because it might impact your graduation date. And but sophomore spring, is what Dean Cook was
Yeah,
saying.
I mean, so we ask all students to declare their major after their first year in Pratt, so that you get a major advisor, you get hooked into major emails and kind of the events that the majors put on. But you can change your mind until sophomore spring and not have to push your graduation back if you're on the fence. Sophomore spring is when the majors really start to diverge. Now, that doesn't mean that you might take a course that doesn't count towards a different major, but like that's typically when, if you change after sophomore spring, it's going to be hard to kind of get back on track without like some significant summer classes or overloading. And that's a great thing to talk with your dean about in your first year about like how to stay on track for a particular major, because there's certain prerequisite courses that are very important for many of our majors, but like they're different for different majors.
Great. Maybe the last question, unless another comes in. Can you remind us again, what's the difference between discussion lab and lab?
I think it's the purpose of the component of the class. During a discussion section, you might be working on sample problems. During a lab, you might be conducting experiments, for example. It would depend on the class.
Yes, like chemistry and physics both have both, and the discussions are problem solving, small groups. The physics have weekly quizzes in their discussions, and they're usually shorter. Although physics the discussion and labs are the same, and then the labs are hands on, like you're doing a lab experiment. The chemistry labs are capped at I think it's 14 because they have 7 hoods. I think in the lab, so you're like doing experiments in pairs with like you know, dangerous chemicals and the types of things you do in chemistry. And those are like 3-hour labs. Typically, the chemistry labs meet every other week, so they like you kind of have there's enough lab space for students to meet every other week for lab. But yeah, labs are like experimental, kind of hands-on, and then discussions are more like solving problems.
Wonderful. That is the end of our time together. I believe we've made it through every question. If for students, if you have lingering questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to either team. If you're not sure where to direct your question, our office is always a great place, student orientation at duke.edu, and we will help get your question to the right place if we don't have the answer. I want to give a huge thank you to our Pratt undergraduate education team for their time today, answering all of your questions and all of their hard work this summer, supporting all of you students in the academic transition to Duke. As a reminder, this is being recorded. We will post it in about 48 hours on our Summer Transition Series website. Instead of saying register here, it'll say review the recording here. So you can listen again to all these details and the difference between D and L and all of that in course codes. We hope that you'll tune in for our future Summer Transition Series. We have them just about every week for the rest of the summer. And next week is our one on well-being. So we hope that you will tune in to learn more about how you can stay well in your first year. With that, thank you again to our panelists. Thank you again to our students, and we hope you all have a great evening. Take care.